Hello. The following information is being presented as part of the Governor Mifflin Area Citizens Academy that was developed by the 5 communities and school district in the Governor Mifflin area. The 5 communities in the Governor Mifflin School District include Brecknock Township, Cumru Township, Kenhorst Borough, Moulton Borough, and Shillington Borough. The following information is being presented in order to provide you with a better understanding of the organization and operation of the local units of government in the Governor Mifflin area and to help you become more involved in your local community. We hope you find the material helpful, and a copy of this recording may be obtained at any of the municipal offices or the school district administration building. The Governor Mifflin Area Citizens Academy is made possible through a grant from the Russell L. Hiller Charitable Trust Fund of the Berks County Community Foundation.
Good afternoon. I'm Shannon Rossman with the Berks County Planning Commission. I'm their Intergovernmental Cooperation Planner, and today we're going to talk about sewer, water, and stormwater and how that works with your local municipal officials and their regulatory powers with those 3 items. As many of you know or don't know, when you flush a toilet, where does that water go? Where does the water go from your shower? Where does the water go when you wash dishes? In many cases, and for instance in this Governor Mifflin area, sometimes it goes to an unlocked septic system, which is an actual system that collects the sewage and the water in a tank, and then it lets the water drain off through a system of pipes to infiltrate into the ground. And the tank will need to be pumped out every few years. In other instances, such as the case with the boroughs and many of the more denser populated areas in Cumru Township, it actually goes to a public sewer system, which is a system of pipes and pumps, and it takes the sewage and the dirty water through those systems to a wastewater treatment plant. And in this area, that most of the water that goes through those systems is actually going to the Reading wastewater sewage treatment plant. At the sewage treatment plant, the dirty water is then separated. You have the solids and you have the dirty water. The solids are separated out. The dirty water is then taken and treated and cleaned to a certain degree, depending upon where they're going to be releasing that dirty water. And then once it goes through that system, it's actually released into, in the case of Reading, it's released into the Schuylkill River. In other instances, it may go into a stream, or it may actually be drip irrigated onto land and then allowed to infiltrate into the ground. What happens with the solids in most instances is that it can be applied to farmland as a fertilizer. It may go to a landfill to use as cover for the day to prevent dust. It may also go to an incinerator and be used as a fuel. It could be taken and cleaned up further and used as actual fertilizer in other instances. And there are always new and innovative ways to use the solid material that comes out of the wastewater treatment plant. In the case of the Governor Mifflin area, as I said, Kenhorst, Moulton, and Shillington Borough, they are entirely covered by public sewer. Cumru Township, you have a more densely populated area in closer to those boroughs, and they have public sewer also. In the other areas of the township, you have on-lot systems. And then in Brecknock Township, there's very few homes that are covered by public sewer. It's mostly rural, and they all have on-lot systems. If you look at the public sewer service area map over on my left side, you can get an idea of the gold areas, which actually show the public sewer service that is currently existing in Berks County. And as you can see, it's mostly in the denser populated areas of the county. And you'll see some pink on that map also, and that means that that's where the municipalities have determined that they're going to need to expand their public sewer in the future. And then the remaining white areas of the county are all on-lot systems. But probably when you're looking at the 400,000 plus people that live in Berks County, maybe 2/3 to a half of them are covered by public sewer because of the denser populated areas. One of the reasons why we have public sewer in the county and elsewhere in the country is that the smaller the lots, the harder it is for an on-lot system to actually get rid of the effluent or the water that comes out of the house and the solids that come out of the house. So therefore, you had to find some way to treat that sewer, and the way to do that was to do it in large batches at public sewer treatment plants. As many of you are aware, we've had many issues over the last 50 or 100 years. The more densely populated an area is, the more you need public sewer. You cannot have on-lot water and on-lot sewer on a very, very small lot. It doesn't work. And so therefore, as we've developed, there have been more regulatory regulations that we need to comply with. There's state regulations and there's also federal regulations. One of the state regulations that mainly handles sewer is the Pennsylvania Municipalities Sewage Facilities Act 537. And what that act means is that a municipality is required to plan for the treatment or discharge of sewer, and whether it's an on-lot system or whether it's public sewer. And what they're required to do is identify areas in their municipality. If there is more densely populated areas, they must identify how they're going to collect that sewer and get rid of it at a sewer treatment plant, whether it's their own sewer treatment plant or whether it's a regional plant like the Reading Sewage Treatment Plant. And the way that they determine if they need to collect the sewer is how big are the lots, whether or not the on-lot systems are functioning properly and being maintained properly, and then what is the cost involved with that. The plans identify where those treatment plants are. Is it physically possible to connect to them? Is it economically possible to connect to them? And can that plant be expanded to allow for additional sewage to be treated at it? One of the main indicators that an area needs public sewer is whether or not the well water is contaminated. And that's one of the first steps a municipality takes when they're doing an Act 537 plan, is to do random well testing in areas where it appears that there may be issues with on-lot systems, and whether or not there's coliform, fecal coliform, or other bacterial contaminations in those wells of the areas with on-lot systems. One of the things that can occur is you will have a system that needs to be put in place, but there is nowhere to connect it to. So you have to build a smaller system to handle a few hundred homes, which can be very costly, and when you're only spreading it out over a few hundred homes. New sewage treatment plants for smaller systems can range between $3 to $5 million and can cost a small borough quite a lot of time and effort in engineering, and also can create a lot of economic hardship on its residents. The cost of the connection, the physical connection from a resident or a business to a new public sewer system, can be in the thousands. It all depends upon the individual physical connections themselves, how far it is from the line to the structure. The initial cost of the startup of the sewage treatment plant, which is called a tap-in fee, can cost in thousands. We've had tap-in fees that have been $8,000, $10,000, all depending upon how much it costs to build that sewer treatment facility. And then there's the cost of operations and maintenance of the facility. As you give them the sewer to treat, they have operational costs, electric, costs to get rid of the solids, costs to do laboratory analysis and such. And for the newer facilities, your monthly user fees may range from $50 to over $100, depending upon the size of the system and what is entailed with the system. The larger systems that we've seen in the county that need to do upgrades or need to do replacements entirely because the systems are that old, they can run in the hundreds of millions of dollars. You know, as you're aware, with the city of Reading, you know, they're replacing portions of their sewer system, and they're looking over $200 million, possibly into the $300 million to replace that system. But that system supplies over 100,000 people with public sewer. No matter which type of system you have, there's always maintenance to those systems. There's constant maintenance to the lines. As they get older, you need to videotape those lines. You need to make sure that stormwater is not getting into the lines, because it costs a lot more to treat sewer and stormwater than to just treat sewer alone. There's also costs involved with general on-lot systems. On-lot systems require their tanks to be pumped out occasionally, depending upon the number of people located in the house. There are, when you have an on-lot system, if you want to look at the little description I brought here with me, there is a septic tank that collects all the solids and the liquids, and then there is a little pump that pumps the water out to the drain field. The drain field allows all the water to percolate back down into the water table, which is great because that recharges the water table, but you need to make sure that it's actually, the ground is cleaning the water before it reaches that water table. So what happens in this instance is you'll have a sewage enforcement officer from the municipality will test this area to determine what type of system goes into place. Whether it's a standard in-ground system, whether it's a sand mound, or whether it's a small drip irrigation system. But these systems themselves can cost, the standard in-ground system may cost $5,000 to $10,000. A sand mound or a drip irrigation system, you could be running up into the $20,000 plus range. So it all depends. But the septic system has to be maintained just as a public system does. You have to pump out your tank every 2 to 5 years, depending upon the number of people in the house. The more people in the house, the more often it needs to be pumped out. And those prices can range between $200 and $300. But the cost to replace the system and the potential for not being able to find another site on your lot to replace a system can make the costs go even higher. Septic systems are a very key way to get rid of sewer in the county, but it is the public systems that are generally more publicized. People are more willing to flush the toilet and let everything go away to the public system. They understand that it's being taken care of. And some of the issues that we've run into in this instance is where somebody moves from the city or a suburb area that has public system, and they move to the country or a rural area and don't realize that when the toilet is flushed, the sewer doesn't just go away, it stays on that lot. So they need to ensure that their system operates properly and that they maintain it properly. Some of the key issues in the county that we've been dealing with is water quality, both with on-lot wells. As I said earlier, when you have smaller lots, it's hard for a septic system and a well to operate in the same lot. Streams near septic systems that are not operating properly, that malfunction, can affect the water quality and also affect the stream habitat. The quality of the water that's released from a public wastewater treatment plant can be an issue. If you have a heavy storm and there's a lot of inflow of stormwater into the sewer lines, you may overflow the wastewater treatment plant, which would then create a sewage overflow of untreated sewage water. And that can have a fish kill effect. It can also affect people downstream who actually use that water for drinking water purposes. Some of the other issues that we've noticed in the county is that many of the older areas that now need sewer are people that have lived there a very long time, are generally on a fixed income, and it's harder for them to pay for that new sewer. We're going to move on to water next. Fewer people in the county rely on public water than they do on public sewer. It seems that it's more noticeable when sewer fails than when water fails. In a lot of cases, people don't realize if there's an issue with their well because they do not have their water tested frequently. Most water that comes from wells on an on-lot system uses a pump, and that pump pumps the water from a well to the business or the residence. In the case of the public water systems, in Berks County, we have two different types of systems. We have surface water systems and we have well water systems. Lake Onalani, Blue Marsh, the Hamburg Reservoir, the Boyertown Reservoir, the Birdsboro Reservoir, those are some of the major reservoirs in the county that provide public water to the populated areas in the county. And there are surface water systems. You go out, you see a big lake, reservoir, and that's where they're getting the public water from. Lake Onalani is the City of Reading's public water supply. Blue Marsh Lake is actually the Western Berks Water Authority, which is a major provider of water in the Governor Mifflin area. The other public water comes from wells. These are, in many cases, multiple wells that are providing a public system with their actual water supply, their groundwater. It varies depending upon the type of system as to what type of treatment the public water supplier has to provide. In all cases of surface water, there's a water filtration plant, and they must treat the water, take out the sediment, and then do laboratory testing to determine what needs to be done to the water to provide public safe drinking water to the municipalities, residents, and businesses. You have the Environmental Protection Agency has a Safe Water Drinking Act that has certain requirements in it and contaminant levels. You also have many regulatory controls through the Department of Environmental Protection at the Pennsylvania state level, which requires that municipalities make sure that there's enough water coming from their reservoirs or from their wells to provide for the number of people that are on their public water supply. You have emergency response requirements in case of spills in the watershed or sewage overflows upstream that will affect water quality at a water treatment plant. And then you also have the planning side of water and sewer and stormwater, where land uses around public water supplies need to be sure that the uses will not have a detrimental effect on the water quality itself. You wouldn't want to have an oil facility or a facility that deals with a lot of chemicals right next to a well head or a surface water supply. On-lot water supplies require well drilling permits, but testing is usually left up to the individual landowners. In many cases, people didn't know their well was contaminated until something actually happened. Somebody got sick or something changed about the water. Currently, wells are required to be at least 100 feet from an on-lot septic system if it's an on-lot system. If it's a public water well, it must be at least 300 feet from anything, depending upon the size of the well and what's in the area. Now, currently, many mortgage companies actually require well testing be completed prior to financing the purchase of a business or residence. The cost of systems can vary tremendously depending upon the type of treatment. Whether it's on lot, you might need an ultraviolet system. You might need to drill a well much deeper. For a public system, it all depends upon how good the water quality is as to what they have to do to treat the system. Many of the issues that are involved with water can up the price of the user fees for the water itself. You have connection fees, just as you do with sewer. You have tap-in fees as you do with sewer, depending upon where you're located at. And then you have your user fees, which in water can range tremendously depending upon the type of water and the quality, anywhere from $20 a month or less to $100 and some a month, all depending upon whose system it is. The issues that you deal with water can range from quality to quantity. Many of you are aware of the recent droughts that we've gone through, and it looks like there will definitely be more in the future. things that are more out of our control. But some of the things that we need to remember is that we need to preserve our water and both quality and quantity, because the more water we take out, the less that will be there for the future. So we need to make sure that we are putting water back into the ground also. And the more regulations we have because of these issues, the higher the cost will be to treat the water. The last part of the program deals with stormwater. And stormwater is actually the beginning of the equation, because where the stormwater comes from, when it rains, when it snows, when you have anything kind of precipitation, you then have stormwater. And as many of you have seen in school, you saw the water cycle. You have your evaporation, you have your transpiration from the leaves, and you have your condensation developing in the clouds, and then you have your precipitation. And then you have your infiltration into the ground, and you have your subsurface flow of water. You also have your streams and your lakes, and it's all one big cycle, as you were taught in school. One of the issues that we've seen because of not having enough regulation or not building appropriately, or many factors, is we've had, as you can see, this is downtown Reading during the recent flooding last year. There's many things that have happened. As you can tell, there's water all around this building and going through the building. I don't believe that's supposed to be there. So things that have happened in the past that have created many different changes to that natural water cycle. We had pre-development where everything was the natural water cycle, and now we have post-development in many cases where you have increased impervious surface where water can't get through to infiltrate back into the ground, so it runs off. And it creates quite a bit of damage in certain instances depending upon what was built. And as we develop even further and create more impervious coverage, we're decreasing the groundwater supply and putting higher stress upon our streams and our surface water facilities that we have. Many of the regulations that deal with stormwater have occurred because of these disastrous flooding events that have occurred, and also because of contamination issues. Many of you may not remember 1972 Hurricane Agnes created a huge flooding event throughout the state of Pennsylvania and other areas. We had flooding events in 1975, and more recently events in 1999, 2006, and as all of you will probably remember, 2011, which was very similar to Hurricane Agnes in the area. And these stormwater events and flooding events that have occurred have created the need to try and regulate development in a better fashion so that we can decrease or try to control some of the damage that occurs and try to rectify some of the damage that we've done to our natural water cycle. In the state of Pennsylvania, we have the Pennsylvania Act 167 of 1978. That was a Stormwater Management Act that required all counties to complete stormwater management plans and all municipalities to enact ordinances that would work together to control stormwater on the watershed basis rather than on the municipality basis. And in 2001, those stormwater management plans were required to look at water quality also, rather than just water quantity. So these stormwater management plans that are the basis for stormwater management ordinances now look at water quantity, how to control the amount of water that comes and runs off during a storm, the water velocity, how fast that water is running, the water quality, so that the water that's coming off of impervious surface is clean, and also increase the natural flow and natural infiltration back into the ground so we can try to replicate the natural high water cycle that I showed you earlier. In many cases, there's also stormwater that was dirty, and the federal government, through the Environmental Protection Agency and the EPA Clean Water Act in 1987, created regulations that require stormwater to be clean when it comes from a municipality during its release. and the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, or MS4 program, occurred out of that act. All municipalities that have urbanized areas now are required to make sure their stormwater that is released is clean and not contaminated. In Berks County, we have 13 watersheds as designated by the Department of Environmental Protection. And of those 13 watersheds, 9 have approved stormwater management plans. Municipalities have enacted those ordinances to regulate new and redevelopment areas. They also work very closely with the Conservation District to manage erosion and sediment control, to manage the stormwater coming off of construction sites, and they work with the Department of Environmental Protection on other water permitting issues. Many of these permits occurred during the subdivision and land development process or the zoning and building process. Somebody proposes to build or rebuild something on a parcel of land, and it goes through that process and then has to work with the municipality, the Conservation District, the county, and DEP to make sure that their stormwater is going to be controlled, infiltrated, contained in a manner that is safe and also not going to create a problem for the adjoining neighbors. And probably the best way to show you that is in a picture that shows a good and a bad. The picture on the top is a new housing development that put in a best management practice. They put in a pond that collects stormwater and then releases it slowly back and allows it to infiltrate into the ground. There is buffer areas around the pond so that the contaminants from the lawns and the roads do not reach the water. And it's a very good, very logical place for the water to go. In the bottom section, we have somebody is building the development. They do not have the buffer areas around the water. The water is dark, it's dirty, there's a lot of sediment and erosion that have gone into the water system. There's no buffer areas to clean the water before it gets to the ponding area. And then because of the way that the ground is impacted, this water isn't going to infiltrate back into the ground. It's going to become a haven for mosquitoes, and also when if it is released into a stream, it will cause contamination to that stream. Another good view of what a natural stream should look like and what we should be doing to protect our streams in the stormwater process is the buffer areas that run along this stream. The stream itself is very natural. They have put in buffer areas along the stream to prevent any runoff issues, to prevent the ground from eroding and causing sediment issues in the stream. And the stream is actually now, was once looked like the bad picture previously, now is actually supporting natural habitat and life within the stream. The way that these stormwater plans are developed is the county actually develops the plans using engineers and hydrologic modeling process. They work with the municipalities to find out what the issues are. They then develop a model ordinance for the municipalities to enact, and the Conservation District and the county work with the municipalities to enact these ordinances, and then the Conservation District and the municipality work together to implement those ordinances. When you comply with those ordinances, then the development will have an area where they're going to be infiltrating water into the ground, and then they will also be able to replicate that water cycle better. They will have less erosion. They will have, the water table will be remain higher than it would have if they would have been cycling all the water off the development to put into a large pond area that would just go into a stream. And the newer ways of dealing with water actually can be much less expensive when dealing with it on a small scale rather than building these large ponds that only come into play when we have large storm events. Most of the water that we deal with that actually creates sedimentation issues and creates water quality issues is those small storms, which the 1 or the 2 year storms is what they call them. And these are the storms where you get the dirt coming off the roads, the oil coming off the parking lots, and things like that. Those are the storms that actually create most of the contamination issues. And those are the storms that we're most concerned with in making sure that water quality is improved or is prevented from becoming an issue. The one thing that we need to make sure, especially with stormwater quality, is that the more we put into place protect water quality with stormwater, the less impact we'll have on our groundwater flows, our groundwater wells, and the impacts on the water quality of the streams. And also, the cleaner we make the water, the less expensive it is for water treatment facilities to treat the water. So, and that is what I have today for you on sewer, water, and stormwater. You can find out more information on the Berks County Planning Commission's website. If you would just place that name into the search engine, you'll find our website. There will be information on MS4, on Act 167, and then also at the Pennsylvania State website for the Department of Environmental Protection. You can look under water or wastewater, and then also at the Environmental Protection Agency at the federal level, and you can look under their water and wastewater also. Thank you.